Blackburn Rovers retained their unbeaten championship record this season on Saturday afternoon thanks to a 2-0 win over 10-man Queen's Park Rangers courtesy of Jonathan Varane's straight red in the depths of first half stoppage time. And while it's only QPR's second loss in the league this season to the two sides currently placed first and third in the table, it makes it just one win in 7 for Martí Cifuentes' side, and puts Rangers on an identical points tally to this time last season after 7 matches played. As usual, let's break down this QPR performance, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. A nice reel on QPR's socials celebrating the return of Elias Chair and Morgan Fox to the training pitch had given some hope that either could make a surprise appearance in this weekend's travelling R's squad, but both remained absent when the starting 11 dropped an hour before kickoff. So too was Jake Clark-Salter, back for Millwall last week after missing Sheffield Wednesday, but unavailable here once again. Clearly, with his injury history, it's important for the club to be proactive whenever he has any minor gripes. That led to 3 changes to the side, with Jimmy Dunn shifting back to centre-back and Santos coming in at right-back, Jonathan Varane replacing Nicholas Madsen, and Paul Smith taking the place of Lucas Anderson. The first half, although level at the break, bared the same QPR hallmarks we've come to expect this season. Slow to progress up the pitch, soft in the middle, and lacking that clinical touch in the final third. Rangers may have had the same number of efforts as Rovers overall, but none of them were on target in this first 45, and 2 of 3 were inside the opening 10 minutes. Koki Saito struck first within 2 minutes, floating in a lovely effort from outside the box after a deflected corner that just wouldn't quite bend in enough. And he caused problems again on 7 minutes, skinning Carter on the outside before dinking in a nice cross from the left, initially missed by the head of Frey before perching nicely at the feet of Paul Smith, only for him to steer wide from 6 yards out. And I would love to say he should have buried it, but we've seen him miss plenty of those before. Take either of these early chances and the context of this match could have been considerably different, but we didn't, and as the half wore on, it was Rovers on the ball and pressing intently. Andreas Weimann had Blackburn's first attempt, with Carter slipping a ball in behind all too easily to Dolan, who cut it back to Weimann next to the penalty spot, but he couldn't get enough on the shot, leading to the first of 10 Paul Nardi saves. 5 minutes later, it was Dolan going for goal, with Tronstad pickpocketing a clumsy Haverton Santos inside our own half, leading to a Dolan slalom run past Santos and Varane and into our box, but his curling effort nestled safely in Nardi's hands once again. Our third and final effort of the half came on the half-an-hour mark, with Santos and Smith resisting the press and Varane steering the ball into Frey inside the box, but he could only find the outstretched leg of a defender. The most dangerous effort of the half came from a Blackburn counter-attack, with a nice 1-2 from Ahashi and Dolan in the middle, leaving Rangers scrambling back towards our own goal. Dolan played an excellently weighted ball in behind to the Japanese striker, but Steve Cook just about got a touch to nullify the danger. Despite our toothlessness, we looked set to make it to half-time with parity. That was until Jonathan Varane put his name in the hat alongside Jack Colback for most pointless red card of the season. It came from one of the few times Varane actually attempted to drive forward, first steering the ball away from Dolan and then Hedges, but when the ball bobbled a little bit too far away from him, he lunged in clumsily, finding the ankle of Bath rather than the ball that had evaded him. Now, there's been a bit of debate about whether a straight red was harsh, with the rest of the Rovers players doing their best to convince the ref that his whole leg had fallen off, but it was reckless. He traps him with both feet, and we'd almost certainly be calling for a red if that was a tackle on a QPR player at Loftus Road. QPR have been nowhere close to good enough in the first half, but with 11 men we might have eked out an awkward point here. Instead, Varane sending off robbed us of the ability to attack in the second period, with Madsen replacing Dembele and Harrison Ashby replacing Santos after half-time. It meant the match was only going one way from this point onwards. And as you'd expect, former R's assistant manager John Eustace sent his Blackburn side out gangbusters, starting off with Nardi being forced to make a quadruple save in the space of 20 seconds, just 3 minutes into the half. Inspired acquisition Todd Cantwell tried his luck from range first, forcing a low block at Nardi's near post. Dolan tried to force in the ricochet ball, which Nardi parried into the air, forcing him to scoop it out from his line a second later like a volleyball. Cantwell helped himself to another go, which Nardi once again denied, before Yuki Ahashi finally and thankfully steered Weimann's low-fizzed ball wide. But it was a sign of things to come. Blackburn had 16 shots in the second half, 9 on target, and while we would eventually concede 2 of those, we are bloody lucky to have a keeper as good as Paul Nardi, because this quite easily could have been more. I mentioned earlier that he made 10 saves. which is 9 more than Blackburn's keeper and 3 more than any other Championship keeper made this weekend. The opener came 2 minutes later and Nardi was unlucky to concede it, with Lewis Travis reeling off a powerful strike from the edge of the box that Steve Cook tried to steer out with his leg, only for him to deflect it into his own net. And Rangers were a bit of a mess from this point onwards, with Rovers doubling their tally 10 minutes later from a familiar weakness, with Cantwell floating in an excellently weighted ball from a short corner, which left Cook flat-footed and Bath free to steer it in with the legs that Varane had broken. It was always going to be a near impossible task keeping this team out with 10 men, let alone 11. They had scored the second highest number of goals in the league before our visit, and when one of your best players is having himself an off day, there's very little that you can do. There was some frustration behind a disallowed Paul Smith goal, though the ref had already blown up rightly or wrongly before he'd placed it into the net. And while subs Seller and Anderson had late efforts blocked, it was a comfortable Rovers win in the end. Now, as is common with form this poor, the Ars faithful's reactions vary. Some are questioning Cifuentes' tactics, others the recruitment. Some maintain that it will take time for these players to bed in, while others are unsure whether the time required for that is a luxury we can afford in a league as ruthless as this. Some have acknowledged that we've only lost to 2 teams currently placed 1st and 3rd, but we've also not been able to beat teams placed 15th, 14th or 18th either. This particular loss will obviously be pinned on Varane's mistake, but in some ways this felt like a loss from last season, largely because it was self-inflicted. We weren't great in the first half, but it could have been a different result 11v11. More generally speaking, I am starting to think this is down to our setup. These players clearly aren't comfortable with playing out from the back, and it makes us slow, error-prone and uninspiring in attack. Last season, Marty was forced to abandon his managerial philosophies in order to get us over the line, and I think some similar compromises are going to be required to get this team ticking again. The approach we had at the end of last season, perfectly encapsulated by the Leeds win, is surely the place to start. High press, counter-attacking, overloading is what we're good at. Let the other team labour over the ball and strike on the break. You have to be a very, very good team to maintain the ball and dictate play for 90 minutes. Very few teams in this league can do it well. We're going to need to set up to suit our players, not vice versa. And as I've said all season 2, our midfield is a big problem. We're really lacking a midfield general there, and with Varane now suspended and Colback injured, our options to bolster it are considerably shrinking right now. Really, we just need a win to settle things down, get to the next international break after Derby, hopefully get Chair back into this team and get ourselves going. Anyway, that's everything from me in this video. Do let me know what you thought about this performance in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video tomorrow for my Hull City match preview. Cheers!